Greetings and welcome to Star Trek Discovery Pod, a sometimes funny, trying to be smart podcast covering all things new and classic Trek. Why didn't I pick Tilly? I am your captain, Myrriah Gossett. With me on the view screen, we have
Clyde Haynes. If it's my mindscape, I'm definitely going with Tilly for a whole host of reasons.
And it's Paul. I didn't know they could squeeze in the word scion as many times as they did in an episode to touch it.
Ooh, that would be a good drinking game.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
you
people
would be on the floor.
people would be in med bay.
Yes, indeed. Deep into med bay, needing all of Wilson Cruz's assistance. If you have not guessed it tonight, we are discussing Labyrinths, which was directed by Emmanuel O.C. Kufor, written by Lauren Wilkinson and Eric J. Robbins. But before we dig into this, I think, not to give away my hot freak, incredible episode. We have a couple of just small pointers of housekeeping, a few reminders, especially if maybe you're new. I just saw today that Star Trek Discovery is on the top 10 Nielsen streaming ratings. So maybe there's some new viewers. You're looking for some fun companions for the ride. You're like, how do I get into Star Trek? We are here for you. And Paul, where can they go to find maybe like our archive, some of our back catalog?
Sure,
If they want to get caught
our
up.
Memory Alpha. You can find
Alpha.
if you subscribe at podcast. Subscribe to our podcast at Apple, Spotify, YouTube. All links are at StarTrekPod.co. And if you love our content or like our content or hate our content, especially if you hate our content, what we need is funding to make it better.
Hate money.
Yeah. So please consider joining us on our Patreon for just $2 per episode at patreon.com/StarTrekPod.
Thank you, Paul. Clyde, if people are hanging out with us tonight live, how should they let us know they want us to read something in the chat?
Well, I want you to go, and I know it's very, very rare, but find some paper. A nice yellow legal pad would work. Write your questions down in there, then fold it, stick it into an envelope. You'll need a stamp. Forever stamps are great. Then you address it to Myrriah Gossett. That's it. Stick it in the mail, and maybe it'll get there. They'll find you.
That's how that works. I'm like the archivist. I'm constantly on the move.
See, that's the way it works. I mean, there will be a plasma storm to get that the mail carrier will have to get through it, but it's worth it. I would say definitely just type capital P, capital O, capital D, capital pod in your chat, and we will take a look at your question, your comment, your thoughts, and in that special moment type capital H, capital F, capital HF in the chat, and we will take a look at your musings, your thoughts about this episode here in just a moment.
For all those who are commenting on the hat and hair, my hair was like crazy today, like crazy, like Babylon 5 Centauri crazy. And I go like, oh, it's gonna be okay. But then I go, no, I don't want to subject people to that. So I put on my Cracker Barrel hat.
You have a surprising amount of hats from southern states for being someone who lives in California.
Yeah, no, it's I enjoy good food.
I mean, it's relevant, yeah.
Yeah, and so Cracker Barrel has like my favorite pancake, and some other places have my favorite other things.
Great.
What is your favorite? You can't just stop there. What is your favorite pancake, Paul?
Well, it has a blueberry pancake, but like Cracker Barrel, what they do is they cook.
Welcome back to Cooking Talk with the Star Trek Discovery Pod.
You might remember we're the offshoot of like Hot Dog Talk from
Strange New World. We are we're welcome to Pancake Pod.
We're the Pancake Hour, and so Cracker Barrel makes so many pancakes in such volume that like what happens is like the butter that they cook in, like it kind of deep fries the pancake, so it's like this soft normal pancake center, and it has on occasion the crispy ring around the pancake, and I get with blueberry, so the crispy blueberry ring around and it's pretty heart attacking, but it's delicious.
As someone who is really trying to eat healthier these days and be just more active, and I'm really trying to take care of myself, I have no idea why I asked that question. I was just asking for trouble.
This? Now I have to make pancakes after this.
I'm definitely not going to do that, but I'm going to think about it a lot. So
here's what's crazy. I live in LA, and I've been to all the Cracker Barrels within driving distance to LA, which is the furthest one being Victorville, which is about 2 hours.
I
Uh,
agree with Nicole, though. Continuing pancake talk before we get into Star Trek, even though I really like this episode, so I want to talk about it soon. I agree. Waffle House. I think it goes Waffle House, Cracker Barrel, IHOP. In my opinion, Nicole says Waffle House, IHOP, Cracker Barrel, but
like, I love me a Cracker Barrel. Like, I was in Nashville like not too long ago. I went to a Cracker Barrel. Walked in. There was this one guy at 11 p.m. playing, like, watching a chess video at like full volume on their phone.
incredible.
And uh, the waitress, we asked like, "Hey, this sweet pancake. It says it has nougat on it. What's nougat?" Like candy has nougat in it, and she goes, "It's something that makes it taste good." And
Incredible.
they're
That's all
just
you
so
need
good.
to know.
That's right. I get my hash brown smothered, but like I'm about the Cracker Barrel.
All right.
If you're joining us for the first time and you're excited to talk about Trek and trying to figure out why are they talking about pancakes, just keep in mind, as much as I want to say we don't get on tangents and that this never happens, buckle up because it happens quite frequently, and that's what makes us us. So
Like,
enjoy the
yes.
ride.
Notice that
Enjoy
we
the ride.
said we try to be smart. Operative word, try.
Try is really punctuated this episode. All right, y'all. I think we got to dive into it.
And
We
back to
gotta
pancake.
We gotta get some hot frakes. But first, how about a couple of messages from the menagerie? I'll dive in here with Karen, who says, "Well, what a wild ride and what a twist at the end. There's so much I loved. I can't name it all, or else this would be a novel." It is still pretty long, Karen. I'm gonna skip around, but I love you so. She loved Harrell. I would watch the archive spinoff. David Ajala shines in this. Makes me so mad we don't get a season 6. A lot of love for Michael's whole confession, the you are not alone and the imposter syndrome of it all. Totally agree, Karen. And Kieran says it was a wild ride that somehow works. I can't imagine Kovac's reaction when he finds out that Michael gave the Breen the coordinates for the final clue. Harrell is my favorite Star Trek librarian, especially compared to Mira Romaine. Yes, but Clyde, what was your hot freak of this episode?
So before I get into my hot freight, I gotta say, Myrriah,
Pancakes.
the last episode, you were really talking about how you were wondering if this was going to be an ode to Deep Space Nine, and it was, right? Like, definitely they talked about the Dominion, and the first thing that Burnham did when she got to the library is she read everything she could on the Dominion War. So I was like, oh, Myrriah, that's why she's the captain. Overall, I thought this was a fun episode. It was a nice puzzler. You've got a labyrinth. It's one of these Star Trek episodes that happens in the mind, but you've got this big battle outside. No, I thought this felt like a nonstop thrill ride. And again, it makes me disappointed that this is the final season because this is really a great show.
It's really, really singing. Paul, what was your thought?
I'm less. I thought it was fun. My thought was like, this is really pretty. The library is very pretty. The Badlands is really pretty. The Oasis in the Badlands, like a very pretty episode. The Mindscape journey, I've seen in Voyager. It was an episode of Voyager. So like
that's probably why I liked it so much.
maybe. But I was going like, I already know the ending, so I'm just waiting for it to get to the thing. Like the twist as far as like giving the Breen the map, like it hit my don't do that. Like not to go on another tangent, but I will. So like a movie that I have a hard time with, even though people generally enjoy it, is Shang-Chi. And the reason why I have a hard time with it, among other things, is like at the real pivotal moment, Shang-Chi has to choose between letting go of her sister, which means falling into some water, or being taken by the bad evil demon monster, or saving the universe. And he chooses to not save the universe. And I go, that's not very hero-like. And so I look at Burnham. Here is the map to like the most powerful thing ever.
But she knows something they don't.
I understand, but that's a lot. That's a lot to like ride on, like, you know. And so here is the map. Here's the way to go. And then they go like, you know, I don't think the what do you call it? The Primarch is gonna know how to get through this thing. And then like what do you call it? The second command goes, what about Maul?
Maul.
And then she goes, I don't know, maybe she's pretty smart. I'm going like, oh, it's not good. It's not good.
I love this episode. It combined a lot of things that really hit for me.
Mhm.
One, I love libraries. I love museums. There's a lot of like interesting politics of museum archiving that I
Sure.
thought they really touched on in an interesting way. I thought the speech from Sonequa Martin Green at the end of her test was Emmy worthy. I thought it was incredible.
I thought it was great.
And I thought the whole situation with Maul is really interesting. And I have some things and some questions I want to ask y'all, but I don't want to give it away yet. Other hot freaks here from Nicole. Maul could sell ice to penguins.
Facts.
She is very convincing, very, very convincing. But let's start at the top of the episode. First, shouts to the University of Toronto Rare Book Library. That's where they shot this. That is a real library. It's very little set deck to make that library look like that.
It looks hot.
Also, this is maybe, I couldn't confirm if this is the only, but it is very rare for them to let shows or movies shoot in that library. So the fact that they let Star Trek come in is pretty freaking cool.
Well, they have, you know, they had the Strange New World shoot in Toronto, so like, you know,
they shoot all of these shows in Toronto, but that library doesn't let people use it as a location.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I thought they were shot in Vancouver. My bad.
No.
Yeah, but this is Star Trek, right? This isn't like, you know, an independent film. It's like, hey, can I use your library? This is like Star Trek.
Yeah, but I mean, looking like that, they've probably been hit up by like the Handmaid's. I mean, everything shoots in Toronto now. It's like the Handmaid's Tale, like all of that stuff that shoots up there. Like that gave very like, I don't know, it's interesting. I thought it was great, and I looked at pictures of the library afterwards, and I was like, oh, they did shit to the set, and it looked that good. That's incredible. Anyway, tangent. It's a really cool space. You should all look it up. You should visit it if you're ever in Toronto. Pay it a visit. I saw in an interview with David Ajala that during downtime they let him and Sonequa Martin Green look through like some of the original original Shakespeare texts. Like they'd have to wear archive gloves and like look through it, but they're both big Shakespeare nerds, so they let them dig through those books, and I was like, that's pretty cool. Shouts Toronto Rare Book Library. Did anyone else so when the archivist asked about there being a Quajon on board, did anyone else think we were going down the Menagerie from Lower Decks route where they were like, we must collect a Quajon?
No,
I did not think that.
Just you.
I did not think.
But like, I'm glad that things don't change.
I thought it would be more. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think that that piece, that B plot was incredible, and Book, like his performance was just
heartbreaking. Yeah. The moment he interacts with that box and finds the cutting of the life fruit was
the world tree or whatever.
Yeah, like it was great.
I feel like this leads again to the fact that it might be the resurrection of Qui-Gon, because
to me this confirmed the resurrection of Qui-Gon. It might be he can take that and plant it on a different place and start a community for them, like essentially starting over. It might not be a full reboot of the planet, but to me this confirms that there's going to be like a new space for Qui-Gon.
Okay.
And I love the fact that they were like, and you can take it with us. Just
tell
us what happens. Like that was This was the coolest librarian in sci-fi history, I think. I mean, I haven't done
100%.
done
Also, the
done a deep
actress who
dive.
played her is won like second place on Canada's Idol. Like, so she's like a pop singer up there.
Cool,
But
cool.
she said she had a great time filming.
She did a great job. Like,
Yeah.
she did a really great job.
She was the perfect amount of campy and nerdy and delightful, yet slightly intimidating. I really enjoyed her performance. But I wanted to, I'll get on my little museum policy pedestal here for a minute. This is what all museums should do. If a culture comes back to you and says, this is ours and we want it back, you should just give it back.
I don't know.
Period.
I don't know. I think I might side with the British on this one.
I
Said
think
Paul, ironically. I don't mean that. I'm just kidding.
My question is, how do you determine who in that culture, right? Like, is it anybody?
Well, it's usually like
chief or
governments are asking.
government
Yeah,
head
it's
or
like
president or-
representatives of like larger
Mhm.
bodies of the culture. You know, like I mean, the country of Benin has been asking for their brass back from the British Museum for like decades now.
I agree with that. I think especially because, you know, so much of so much of those exhibits were taken, not given,
Yeah, absolutely.
stolen, pilfered. And so I think if a culture, a community says, hey, this is ours and we would like it back and we should be the, you know, the curators of it, I think that's completely fair.
Like, I'm going to push. And I'm not, and this
Please.
is just me hypothetical, and this is another tangent. I apologize. But do you know who is the largest repository of Nazi art is? The US government.
I mean, that sounds about right.
So
Mhm.
so if the Germans were to say, "Hey, we want our Nazi art back."
Yeah. I
I'd
mean,
say
if they
okay,
want it,
yes.
yeah. I mean, I feel like Germany's done a pretty good job of being like, here's all the awful things we did, and we've apologized for it a lot, and
Yeah,
we've
no,
put it on display to learn. Because to the point of this episode, those who
no,
do
no,
not learn from history are doomed to repeat it.
And those who learn from history don't repeat it.
yeah, we'll see. Like,
Which
you know,
is
like
which I thought was interesting because as many
Brad
times have
kept
I
on
heard
making
that, I
that
haven't,
mistake over and over again. But go on. I'm sorry, Clyde.
but I haven't really heard people say, I haven't heard somebody, oh, you learned from history, so you won't repeat it. You don't hear that phrasing very often.
Yeah, it was like the reverse. I thought it was
Mhm.
an interesting way to put it. I have to say though, David Ajala, what an MVP of this. I mean, him and Sidney Martin Green were really like, this was an actor's episode, and like we were
Yep.
getting performances.
Yeah, no, very, very.
Yeah, we were.
I thought that was very good. I thought they were both very, very good. Although I was upset with Burnham for not getting it after the first when like she's going, the test is this. I go like, I'm sure it's not that. And he goes, oh, you want me to solve a maze? Because that seems like we're gonna learn a lot about power.
I mean, but they're all valid points of like, oh, maybe along this way this maze there will be tests of my fortitude of some kind. You know what I
Sure,
mean? Like
sure. You know,
it's a hard lesson to learn.
I'm just saying, like, have you ever met
Also
a
it's
Betazoid? That's not the type of test that they'd give.
got to be feelings, man.
Have you met Luoxana or Deanna Troy? They're
No.
well,
I mean, yeah, they have not technically. To me there was like a subtle hint of like Chris Tucker from The Fifth Element to the book
yeah,
performance.
I love it. Yeah, I see it.
You know, it was like those little like it was like a lot of the turns, the like book
Mhm.
smacks. I was just like, oh, this is feeling very like I don't know.
Yeah,
It's got a fun texture to it.
like it was a unusual choice, and it paid off. It was a risky choice. There we go. That's I go like, oh, I'm into this.
I will say I expected the defenses of the archive to be better, right? Like they've gone through all this stuff. The Breen show up and they're like, and her first response was, I'm not really worried. Like we're fine. But they defeated those defenses pretty easy.
But I think it's because it's typically like supposed to be a place of peace because everyone contributes to it. So you're in that way destroying your own history if you destroy the space.
Yeah. and to push back, that dreadnought is larger than Starfleet headquarters. And like, yeah, it's a big ship.
Big ship, big ship. Um,
Although I was a little like, one of the things that I found, like, oh, here's this super unknown, tunneling technology, and Reno goes like, here's what you could do, and it completely like works, from afar. I was like, oh, that technology did not seem as formidable as you made it sound.
well, it was like establishing a tunnel. It wasn't really to like destroy. It was like enough to pierce a hole, right? So they could like shuttle
Beam
their
through, yeah,
soldiers
yeah,
in.
sure,
Yeah.
sure, yeah. No, it's interesting.
I want to talk about Maul and the Breen situation. Um, I feel like we touched on this a little bit last week in some wild theory throwing around, but after this episode, I might be even more convinced. Is that one Breen soldier that's kind of protecting Maul actually Non?
That'd be interesting. I mean, I would love it if it were. Although the Primarch knew who the soldier was.
But I mean, they're
Uh,
in all that getup. Like, how?
oh
Like, is
no, no.
there?
Like if this were the case, I say Myrriah was right. She was right. She's so smart. She deserved a cookie or a pancake. She was right. I totally go with it. Uh, but I don't know if that would be the case, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's like to me, it speaks to how fragile things like fascism are, right? It's like if you're only leading with brute force and power and not actually thinking about the good of the people around you, quickly those people will turn on you, right?
Yeah,
Yay, labor movements.
yeah,
But
yeah. No,
I did think it was like I thought the beats all paid off. I also just think
Nicole, you're killing it. Just so you know, you're killing it, Nicole.
Choopy just jumped in. What did I miss? The Great Waffle House versus Crackle Bear debate.
Nicole is crushing it today. Love it.
Nicole with that hot fire.
Yeah.
Hot fire in the chat. But I think the way the Breen are shot and like the whole setup just also looks really cool.
Hmm. Yeah.
But
No.
what did you
I,
think of her quick takeover of that situation?
I mean, I feel like there's something else, right? Because I mean, Maul is a great I don't know, manipulator, con
She's
artist. Like
also
she
like a
picks up on,
proxy for a martyr in a sense, you
yeah.
know?
A
She's
martyr.
she's great on playing on people's like insecurities almost, right? Like she knows what buttons to push in a hurry. And so I'm just trying to figure out, kind of to Paul's question, who is this Breen that that is basically helping and defending Maul? Like who is he? Who is they? I'll say, because I'm not sure
Yeah.
who they are, but I'm curious because it feels significant in some way. But she was able to turn that situation in a heartbeat, and I think, like, I want to believe that her love for Locke is what she's trying to, I don't know, impart on everybody else. But
Yeah.
she's doing a really good job of leveraging that. It's almost like I think in other shows you'd be like, well, I refuse to use the name of my beloved departed, but she's thrown, like you said, how many times did she say Scion? You don't care about your Scion, and the Scion wouldn't want this. And she was quick to throw Locke's name around. I thought it was interesting. So I'm trying to interested, like, it's a power play, and now she's in charge. So Choopy, you're right. Choopy says she's a survivor. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Like she knows how to make sure that she's gonna survive.
She definitely is. I also, so on first watch, I just like watched it and didn't think about, like, I was just like, oh, she's very much convincing. And I think she's figured out that this Breen guard, second in command type, seems to be sympathetic to her in some way. And that was the impression I got on first watch. And then second one, I went through and I kept thinking, is this a plant? Is this someone from Starfleet? Doesn't have to be Non. It could just be a Starfleet incognito mode. And they kept having interesting glances with each. I was like, oh, if it is, they've done a really good job of just like a slow, subtle way of being like they have a bit of a connection and a way to talk to each other.
Yeah, no,
Which
it'd
I
be
just
great.
found interesting.
But I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know
Uh,
either. I wanted to ask y'all, if you had to pick a location and a guide, where would you go for your test of the mind?
I'll let you go first, Clyde.
Like, where would I go for my test of the mind?
Yeah, it has to be the most important place to you in your mind, and then someone to guide you through the process.
I mean, I would definitely say the place I would go. I mean, my first thought would be the most important place.
It's
Maybe it is hard. I would probably say something like, and this is gonna sound corny, the University of Texas.
hard. Right.
It's just a place where I started
Maybe
to find
the
myself.
library at UT.
Quite possibly the engineering department. But I could also say New York City, right? Because those are two places where the person I am today was really kind of cut there. The Who, again, this is going to be very corny, but my mother.
That's not corny.
It's really sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's so much sweeter than what I would say for me.
What's yours, Paul? Let's hear it.
So here, first of all, those who do not know me, I'm a little out there.
We discover new things about Paul every episode.
So one of the apps I have on my phone is kind of called a Mind Palace app. So create a place, in your mind where you can like put things, a place that you know really well. And you know what I picked? The Starship Enterprise, like Deep Space Nine, all the Voyager, like basically up
Star
through
Trek.
Yeah, basically all the way up through what you call it, to Enterprise. So like first original series to Enterprise in various locations. So I think what I would be doing is hopping through various parts of the ships plural, or space station or so. And so and those who don't know me, or I am very, very vain. It would be me.
Oh,
that would be fun.
It would just be me talking to me, and I would probably get very exhausted with myself. But I think that's like my friends say that I have an ocean of ego. So,
that's an interesting thought, Paul. And I have a confession. Maybe I shouldn't. So I used to like struggle falling asleep a little bit. And so what I would do for a long time, especially when I was younger, is I would like close my eyes at night and picture that I was on the bridge of the Star Trek Enterprise D.
Oh, this is way too much. You're sharing too much now.
I know. And what I would do is I would, like, people from my life, I would assign them to bridge positions all over the ship.
Oh, that is cool.
And
that's really cool, Clyde.
Usually I would fall asleep before I got to like every department, hit like every station. And that's how I would fall asleep.
Instead of counting sheep, you count crew.
I love it. That's that heartens me. Star Trek heartens.
And so so when you say it like that, when you bring that up, I don't know, maybe the bridge of the Enterprise would be
the D.
Yeah, the D.
Yeah, no. I think that's because you can't get enough D. Right, you're up.
Yes. I mean mine's pretty boring. I think it would be like my childhood home. Or like the beach specifically that I used to hang out at a lot in my teen years, that I would drive to at night and hang out through the mangrove trees. And then I feel like the person that picked, it's like someone you have like unresolved thing. It seems to be something unresolved is who was picked for Burnham. So I don't know if that plays a part in it or it's just like a random person. Um, but lately my high school history, you know how everyone has that like the teacher that for you made like you survive high school, or at least I know a lot of people they have like that one teacher. So that one teacher for me recently passed away. And so I was like, oh, I think it would be Mr. Johnson. So shouts to Bob Johnson.
Oh, that's very lovely. Mr.
He was
Johnson on a beach as your guide.
Yes.
That.
Which is fitting because he had like a really long he looks like a wizard. It was like long white ponytail. He was who took me to Europe on my first like group trip with a bunch of other crazy kids. And he was also my model UN advisor because yes, I am that nerd. So
Love it. I love it. I think this is great. I
Yeah.
think it's great. Everyone should
I
put
think
it on
it's a
the Slack
fun
channel.
like dinner. Yeah, put it in the Slack channel. I want to know other people's like thoughts and feelings. It feels like a fun like dinner party question, like where there's those like, or like one of those New York Times like 36 questions to fall in love. I'd be like, where's your memory palace and who's your guide?
That's right. What's your mindscape like?
Yeah.
Excuse me? Never
Oh,
mind.
hang on. We got to go watch 5 seasons of Star Trek. So come with me on this journey.
That's right.
I wanted to talk about that Sonequa Martin Green's monologue about not mattering. Do you deserve the uniform? Will she fail again? And then eventually it comes to, the more personal of like, I ruined this relationship because I was afraid of failure, which I thought was like a really both beautiful moment for the character, but I also felt like it was like, I don't know, it felt like a catharsis for Sonequa Martin Green having led this Star Trek show thus far with the many people who criticize it all of the time.
Well, I agree with you 100% and would add, what's really kind of groundbreaking is that it's a vulnerability that I don't know that we've seen from a starship captain before.
Yeah.
Right. We've seen some emotion from starship captains and we've seen some failures, but to see a captain say, are you afraid of dying? No, not really. I'm more afraid of failing.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a vulnerability I don't think we've really seen, right? And typically because there
are 4 lights.
Yes, but for those 4 lights, you still look at him as the most capable person, and of all his issues, you don't think that he is afraid of failing. Like that. To your point, there are 4 lights. I would say, if you asked him what's the closest that you've come to failing, he'd probably say that, and then he didn't fail.
Mm-hmm.
Right, where I think Burnham is looking at this and going, I'm not.
She
even
has
sure
failed before.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that a bunch of these like, it's a vulnerability that says, even today, I'm not sure that I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah,
like I thought she's literally in the labyrinth going, I'm not even sure if I'm doing the right thing right now.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to shout out this particular director, Emmanuel Osei Kaffour, who is like a younger guy. He's kind of come out of some of the horror genre. And now he also directed a couple episodes of Shogun. He seems to be kind of like hot new director on the scene. And I thought the way the performances were captured and I know it's so many people who make these things, so like shouts to camera departments and like the DPs and everyone, but it just like, I don't know, I really enjoyed this episode top to bottom, and the way that it was shot and the way the camera moved and the way the performances were framed in how we went from grand scale into these intimate moments. And I just thought it was very successful, specifically around that speech and how long we stayed on Burnham in that one shot. I think it would have been really easy to have cut away, but I thought it was very beautiful to just like stay with her in that moment.
Yeah, no, I think did a great job. Like, I think it was a performance like the scale shifts, right? You
Mhm.
have the beautiful like Badlands, and like the when you see the oasis that is where
It's
the
a
archives
huge facility, yeah.
and and it's just a lot of beautiful VFX and like all props to that. Like the closest that I've seen, like the benchmark for like VFX like this, for me, for television was Lovecraft Country.
Mhm.
There's an episode of Lovecraft Country where like one of the characters just hopping through all these various locations, like, and I go, oh my god, I think I'm high just by watching all this beauty on this screen, and it's like, oh, this is pushing that, like like the Badlands is rendered in a way that is really really high quality. The Oasis, the even like the interior of the Brain ship, like all these
Mhm.
things, it's just such vast. If it's very cinematic in a way that
Yeah.
and I don't know what happened to the Badlands before. Like people just used to fly through the Badlands, and now all of a sudden, like Void, I mean, Discovery with its like 900-year upgrade can barely make it through. I don't know, man. Like environmental.
You know, maybe there's different pieces of the storm that are harsher than others.
Sure, sure.
But, um but yeah, I agree. I think all the VFX look great. I think the interior of the Breen ship, gives that very authoritarian, very like, um it's like crisp, it's sharp, it's glass, nothing feels soft. It feels
Mhm.
very intentional in that way. And then you get into like the library, which is such a polar opposite of that, which felt so warm and like
Mhm.
Harrell was so inviting and welcoming, guiding you through everything. And her enthusiasm was just like um infectious in how she maneuvered all of the nerds through the space. Speaking of nerds, I wanted to talk about the engineering room and that
Mhm.
kind of fun little grouping of Stamets, Reno, and Adira coming up with the plan to tackle the tunneling system from the Breen, which, was mostly technobabble, but I thought that all of them did a great job of making that technobabble scene very fun and entertaining.
Hmm.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, this feels like vintage Trek to me,
Mhm.
like an engineering conversation, but elevated. Because usually you've got one engineer, maybe in the next generation, you've got two, where you're looking at a Geordie having a conversation with like a Data. But now you've got three, and the way they're kind of playing off each other almost feels musical. Um, it is truly, it was truly just fun to watch and almost feel like you were in the room watching a, a nerdy techno jazz, improv happening.
Yeah,
Uh,
I thought they did a great job making it natural, but
Like for me, I feel like it was good for the episode as like Harrell like added that camp, and so like it's a tone for camp.
mhm.
But like like for me, I've never been the biggest fan of Paul Stamets, but I respected Paul. Uh, but I feel like this season, like there's just a lack of focus for me, and so
Mm.
like in this way, just watching him part of this musical trio of technobabble, like they're like I feel like you're doing a disservice for Paul, and I don't even
Hmm.
care about Paul. I'm not a justice for Paul person. I'm I'm just saying, like
I
he gets lost for me again as a
Yeah,
prime.
I agree. I think this season, I feel like his character arc has not been the strongest thus far, which is why it's like, and I know because it is an ensemble, sometimes there are those seasons where you don't have big character growths for every single person. It
Mhm.
is just disappointing as like he started out as such an important character to the show to see it not be as
Like
in the
he's B
forefront
list now.
anymore. Yeah.
Like and which is a little sad. He's B list. Same with Owo and like Detmer, who are gone, taking the slow
That
boat to like
hurts.
like uh
Well, those
And
specifically, they're not contracted season regular. I actually did it. I was like, where are they? And it's essentially down to because they're not season regulars, they're considered more day player actors. It's like if they get booked on other stuff, they get booked on other stuff. So
oh like
so
I
I got
get that. You go.
was gonna say two thoughts on that. I am disappointed because I thought that this season was gonna be this like culmination for Stamets and going, hey, he solved this major problem and that's why he's the big dog. And we're not getting that, and I don't think we're gonna get that at this point.
I mean, perhaps he ends up being a big part of the key to the final stuff, but it doesn't feel like we're building to that.
But like, like I would say that, Book and Burnham, they're emotional anchors to this season, right? Wilson Cruz, he is an anchor in this season. Those are kind of and even Tilly is back a little bit more, right? But like for all of it, like Paul hasn't been getting any real, and there are 2 more episodes. So even if it's all Paul episodes, it just feels he's
shoved in
for the season. Is he's just not really part of the season, which is okay. Like you can't service everything. I'm just saying that like for the symmetry of what Discovery hit, Paul is very much he's the reason there's Discovery.
Yeah.
Right. And so like it seems almost a disservice to that character that I don't really like, but but justice for Paul, justice for Stamets.
I'm with you, Paul.
I don't know. What?
I'm with you, Paul. I'm with you. I would say the other thing is this. Burnham, you can say Asha's name as many times as you think you can squeeze in. I'm still not gonna care. Where is Detmer and Owo? That's all I'm saying.
It's hard. It's so hard. And to me, this is the biggest note of this is how they didn't know it was the last season.
Maybe, sure.
To me, but
Clyde, just completely random out of nowhere question. Do you remember Captain Shaw?
Yes, I remember.
Do you think he had kids?
No.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Why? You think that one of them is his kids?
Because like you're treating these new people like you treated Shaw. Like you weren't good enough.
Well, look, Shaw grew on me a little bit.
But he had 8. He had the whole season to grow on you, whereas like these people got swapped out into the middle of the season.
Part of my issue though is the way they got swapped out, right? Like there wasn't the sense of like, hey, Owo and Detmer are here. Now let's welcome these new people. You tried to pass them on like they've been there the whole time and they're just part of the crew. And to that I'm going, don't play me like that. Like, please. Like you got some rookies that you're treating like they're vets, and I'm not here for it, right? Like let's treat them like they're new and write them as if they're new to the team. That was my thing.
No, I understand your perspective. It just seems like it seems a little gatekeeping. I'm a little disappointed.
I did enjoy getting to see.
I'm kidding, Clyde. I'm kidding. I just kid.
I am excited we got to see more Reese this episode sitting in the chair.
Yeah.
That was exciting.
Sure.
And then
with
I don't know.
Lean.
With the captain lean, he got to sit in the chair. Very exciting. But I thought it was pretty wild. So he posted on social media that the day they were shooting that was the same day his wife went into labor with their child. And I was like, talk about a really stressful day.
I would go like, oh, look at me. Now I have a good excuse for not being there.
Could you imagine if the director going, you know what? I think I just want to get this one more time from a different angle, like just in case.
It's just gonna take like an hour to reset the lights so that we can
new setup. That's right.
New setup.
And Reese just going, dude, if you don't get me out of here,
gotta go. We got to do this in a 2-take breaks.
Well, I wonder if she's in Toronto.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because
I
it
think
wouldn't
he's
matter.
Canadian.
Okay, well.
Yeah,
he's
from Montreal. I don't know if his family is still in Montreal, but it's not too far from Toronto, but far enough to be stressful if you're about to have a baby.
Yeah, that's not quick.
No,
right?
That's a few hours on a
depending
train.
on when they were shooting, it likely could have had significant amounts of snow.
Yeah. all kinds of things. But glad, the family all seems to be good, safe, and healthy. So, but yeah, what a wild day to be like, I'm finally in the captain's chair. Oh wait,
I did it.
I did it. This wild and crazy time. What else did I want? Oh, I also thought it was on the after show with Will Wheaton, the Ready Room. I was like, what's it called? On the Ready Room, Will Wheaton was talking with David Ajala this week, and it's a great little interview. Highly recommend it. And he was talking about that very emotional speech with Michael. Apparently, she just like goes for it and was like at that level even in rehearsal. And and he said, luckily though, the crew were smart and ran cameras during rehearsal, so they were able to use some of that
beautiful.
take. And so I was like, I wonder if it is that really intense close up of her face, because it's like, to me, the rawest I think I've ever seen Michael Burnham. And it would make sense to me if she's like, oh, I'll just like really go for it in rehearsal and then we can pull it back if we need to. Cause that was like so much emotion.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, it's, you asked, like, is there another captain who's given to show that kind of vulnerability? And I think about it, and there are none from, none from the older series, right? Like, because like you're in the 90s and it's about like suffering in silence. So everyone is like, still waters run deep kind of thing. And so that's it's just her, Giorgio, Pike. Those are the only ones you have, right? So yeah, so I think like she is kind of a forerunner in, like, showing that. I think that's probably correct.
Yeah.
I mean, Pike's kind of emotional and vulnerable too.
At times, but I don't think we've really gotten all the way through the surface. What's funny is I think honestly the character, I mean, Kirk and Spock to me are probably the characters we've seen the most emotion from throughout the entirety of the series and the movies.
Yeah,
I can see that.
I mean, I guess Picard like lost his family like in Generations, and he kind of like, but it still does. Well, like what makes this separate is that Burnham is willing to confront her frailties, as opposed to Pale Moonlight Young, where Cisco is willing to confront his monstrousness. Like in Pale Moonlight, he goes like, "Hey, I lied and I killed people, and I'm going to bring 1 billion Romulans into a war, and I can live with it." Boom.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like those different parts of vulnerability too, and I do think there is a bit of a gendered aspect as well, right? Like I think it is much harder for women in leadership to be quote unquote emotional and be taken seriously, right, in current society. And I'd imagine it seems like that's a bit upheld, especially with Burnham's past of being raised on Vulcan, and the idea of showing any emotion was so frowned upon. And then you have Cisco on the other hand, where it is that like masculine prevalence for violence, and what does that mean for you as a person? It's kind of an interesting duality there.
Yeah, no, it's hard. Like, like you look at life, like we don't value emotionality because emotionality, we don't value lack of control in our leaders. And I'm not even judging that. I just think like you want a leader in control. That's generally like, someone who is not in control and you're a leader makes you feel unsafe. Generally.
But I think part of that goes to our own sense of control and predictability, right? If a person is acting in fully logical, mathematical approach, right, then you can understand what they're doing. You kind of predict what they're doing. It's like, this is how they work. But when you bring emotion into it and how they feel, then that becomes unpredictable. and then we have a sense of loss of control in that situation. Now we don't know what's going to happen, and that makes us feel uneasy. Doesn't mean that it's wrong. It's just I think it's a situation where we then feel uneasy about what's happening because we suddenly become unsure.
Well, I mean, I know, like, I think there's like to Mariah's point, or like at least she hinted towards this, like if the emotion is anger, I think we're
Mhm.
okay with that. Like, it's focused. I think what it comes down
Yeah.
to is uh emotions that are not about solving the problem. Like anger for all of it is basically solving a problem. It might be the wrong problem, but like that's what it's designed to do. Like for all of it, like what's the emotion that Burnham is portraying in the, she's it's a little
It's
remorse.
fear. Yeah.
Well, I mean, she talks about like it's an honest remorse about her failings as a person, right?
Mhm.
She's going like I'm, and ultimately she's getting relief for saying the words out loud. I messed this up. I messed up with book because I was too much me, and I feel bad about that. I wish that it could have been
Oh,
different.
that's not what I took away at all.
Oh,
I heard her say, "I pushed book away because I was afraid of being too much of myself,
oh,
not because of being too much of myself."
yeah. I don't know.
I'm
Like,
I'm I'm closer to Mariah on that. Like
yeah.
there was a sense of I re- I I was afraid and I wasn't my full self, and therefore I put up these guardrails, and those guardrails ultimately
Interesting.
cost me the relationship.
Like I saw it as like I'm so fear of failing that like there are all these things that I just pushed. I use those as excuses to push you away. I know, Michael Brown.
I mean, well, yeah, in that way, but I think what I disagreed with what I thought you said earlier was like the idea that being too much of herself is what ruined the
Well,
relationship. To me,
like
it was
I'm using that fear of failure as herself, as opposed to her inner softness. That the so it's
the
just a
gooey
definition.
center of the
The,
cookie. Yeah.
exactly. Thank you. Which I'm going to get after this podcast, as you know.
I thought I would remind you that you need
Uh,
to go get a cookie after this. Um,
Welcome to Cookie Talk, everyone. Like where we
oh,
talk about.
We like
it's
food
time
on
for
this podcast for sure.
I wanted to go through and kind of gauge what you think of all of the tests thus far, because it feels like we're now building sort of to the final one for our last two episodes. And so we've had um the puzzle box to get to one piece, and then we had, which was kind of an accident to stumble upon, right? Not really a test to get it.
Like we had
um
the necropolis, which was like respect culture. We
Respect
have
culture, we had the
we have
poetry, yeah, we
we
had
have
the
the trill monster, which is basically understand others,
mhm.
right? We have the from trill monster. What do we get? Is it the water one, or is it no? It's the what you call it? It's the Terran one, right? The
Yeah.
Terran Enterprise, which
Mhm.
is like
People can change.
people can change. Or then we have the water one, which is like uh messing with nature is a very, you know, it's a dangerous proposition. Be careful.
Mhm.
And we have here going, oh, know yourself. Don't be stupid about it. Honestly, if I'm going to be really honest, I think all the the tests are not really thematic. I don't see how it all like focuses into something where I go, oh yeah, that's why. But I could be wrong. Like like there are two episodes. I'm not getting it right now.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it seems to boil down to, like, the idea of know others and know thyself, right? As kind of the
Sure,
two
sure,
main
sure.
pillars.
Yeah, like like
Or
I
respect others and respect yourself, I guess, maybe, perhaps.
like or like with great power comes great something. I don't remember. It's a saying that people say.
Just a small saying
I
from a
mean,
small franchise.
that's right, like a small franchise, like but
I met someone, or no, I was listening to a podcast where someone did not know that that phrase came from Spider-Man, and it was like the funniest reveal I've ever heard.
Well,
Um,
comics is the mythology of our time.
that's true. It's very true.
Hi,
Any
Clyde.
uh-oh, Clyde's
Oh,
gone.
oh,
Hopefully his internet is not out and he'll be back. Um, did you have any other thoughts on what this final test perchance could be?
I don't know. Like I imagine, like I wonder if there is an aspect where you have to soul stone it and sacrifice something
Mm.
to get to get it.
Ooh, do you think the life tree? Like, do you think Book is going to sacrifice a piece of the tree?
I don't know. I imagine like it could be that like
Burnham has
like
to
book
sacrifice herself.
or Burnham has to sacrifice Book, and then
Mm.
like Book
Maul goes
goes.
in.
Well, I think Maul will easily go in to save Locke, right?
Hmm.
But I think maybe Book goes in so that Burnham can have it, and he gives her the root and goes like, "Please plant this, blah blah blah." I don't know.
Mm. That would
You
be
know,
quite. I'd be really sad if they killed Book at the end of the season.
but like I think that I think that would work really well uh for a, what you call it, for the end of a series kind of thing. For
Yeah, I think that that's the other thing I'm trying to figure out is how they end up, like, is the reshoots they did to go back and do just like a bit of an epilogue is what I'm imagining that they're just going to tack on to the end of the last episode, but who knows?
but like like I do feel that like I really don't love it.
Oh, Nicole brings up a good point.
Oh,
Pretty
what's that?
sure where'd it go? Oh no, it scrolled. Uh Pretty sure her number 1 will die.
Oh, I don't know. Like I don't really love him, so it's not a so w- I used to have and I still have this friend, but my friend used to work on Grey's Anatomy.
Mhm. They love
And
killing people. Oh,
and
Clyde's internet just crashed, guys, so Clyde is gone for the night.
that's right. And what they do all the time is they would get to the season finale,
And
and
then be like,
basically they
"Who's dying?"
exactly, and it would really it goes like, okay, we okay, what about this person? Well, we can't kill this person. Well, then how about this? Well, we can't kill that person. And it'd be like this triangle or this circle of like all these people you couldn't kill because you didn't kill anyone, but you're gonna kill. And my favorite one of these is an episode where there was the code black. Not
Oh,
to be
the
confused
bomb
with.
episode with
Oh,
Christina Ricci's hand?
oh no, no, no. Maybe that I'm confused. And it's where you had the shooter, like it was the season finale
Oh.
shooter.
Mhm,
A
mhm.
and so what happens is, like, we kill one doctor that, what's her name doesn't like, I can't remember her name, he 'cause she can't get the elevator open in time or whatever, and
Mhm.
then they kill off Meredith Grey's unborn baby as she's as she's doing surgery on, like, Sandra Oh's boy's heart. Yeah, so
Mhm.
she's in the middle of open heart surgery. She is she's having a miscarriage. Yeah,
Mhm.
and and you go like, oh man, that's rough. But it's I want to say good art, but like it's good narrative, like whatever. And so like
Stakes building.
so like
It's like you then know at the end, like, the finale of Grey's Anatomy is usually a guaranteed tearjerker, you
yeah,
know?
and so like for all of it, you know, and I don't want all of Discovery. For good or for ill, and this might be a hot take, like a cold Paul, a hot Paul, whatever. Uh, it's basically watching Burnham develop. The
Mhm.
show is about
Yeah.
Burnham, and so and in that way, like if you wind up, what's going to be best for her development, and oftentimes the answer is heartbreak.
She's had so much of it, though.
I know, but like but she brings it upon herself because she's afraid to fail.
I don't like that answer, Paul. I don't want you to be right.
I know. Maybe Nan will save the day.
Yes, counting on Nan. Anything else you would like to share?
Oh, I guess here's the way you think about it. Would Michelle Paradise be that type of showrunner to do that? That's the question. Because apparently Shonda Rhimes would, and I would.
Shonda Rhimes would.
Like the Vince Gilligan would. Like there are tons of showrunners who would be that person.
I think
would Michelle Paradise be that person?
I don't know. It's also hard because I know Academy is coming, so it's like, what Rolodex of people do you want to have available for that?
Yeah. Like, the part of me that goes like, oh, and it's not like they need book because like the Spore Drive isn't it's off the shelf. Like they're going with the Pathfinder or whatever. So,
interesting. We shall see.
Yeah, just 2 episodes, and we'll figure out.
Shall see. I know. I can't.
Oh yes, yeah. I do want to see that Saru wedding.
I know. Kieran says, "Are we going to be mad if all we get is the Saru Tarina wedding and a 30-second clip in the epilogue?" Yes, I'll be sad.
I'd be pissed, but at least whatever.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. I think we did, everyone.
We're determined.
Kind of funny.
Lots of pancake.
Lots of pancake. Waffle House.
Smothered, covered, and fried. Get ready for breakfast this weekend.
What's new good?
It's something that makes it taste good. You can subscribe, rate, and review on Apple and on Spotify. Hey, if you leave us an Apple review, tell us what your favorite place is to have breakfast. Let us know. We can have it as a poll. We'd love to hear about it.
Or your Mindscape. Tell us all about it. You can follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. I'll get better about posting on Instagram. I sometimes forget. I'm so sorry. We will see you all next time, though. Live long and prosper. Bye-bye. Yep. Bye, everyone.